7 of the Labor Act 11 of 2007. This section deals with the payment on termination and certificate of employment. So in terms of this section, on termination of employment, an employer must pay the employee all the remuneration due to the employee for the following. So meaning at termination, an employee is entitled to payment for the following: work done before the termination, so meaning their salary that was due, any paid time off that the employee is entitled to in terms of section 21.5 or 6 or 22.5 that the employee has not taken, any period of annual leave due for any contemplated annual leave cycle in terms of section 23, any annual leave pay to which the employee is entitled for any incomplete annual leave cycle in terms of subsection 2, any severance pay due in terms of section 35, any notice pay contemplated in terms of section 31 if the employee is paid instead of being given notice, and any transport allowance due in terms of section 36. Now, those are the different types of payments that become due to an employee when the contract of employment is terminated. So, subject to subsection 3, an employee whose contract is terminated is entitled to accrued annual leave pay on a pro rata basis for work performed during an incomplete annual leave cycle as defined in section 23. However, an employee is not entitled to the accrued annual pay contemplated in subsection 2 if that employee without good cause fails to give notice of termination in terms of section 30 and to work the full period of the notice, or to pay the employer the remuneration contemplated in terms of section 31.3 instead of working the period of notice. So just remember that at termination, one needs to give notice. So if the employee has not given notice, and if they have given notice but they have not served that notice, or if they have instead opted to actually pay out the employer for the notice and say, I will not work the notice, but I'll pay you out, and they have not paid out the employer, then they forfeit their accrued annual leave pay. An employer must pay the remuneration contemplated in subsection 1 to the employee on or before the next pay day after the termination. So if you get paid on the 30th, that money that is due to the employee must be paid to the employee on or before the next pay day after the termination, and in accordance with section 11. Now, section 11 provides for payments of remuneration, if you remember how it should be done. On termination of employment, an employer must give an employee a certificate of service stating the employee's full name. So for the HR people, just make sure that the template that you use has the employee's full name, the name and address of the employer, a description of the industry in which the employer is engaged, the date of commencement and date of termination of employment, the employee's job description, the remuneration at date of termination, and if the employee requests, so this is subject to the employee requesting for it, the reason for termination of employment, if requested for by the employee. So nothing in the section prevents an employer from furnishing an employee with whose employment has been terminated with a testimonial or other certificate of good character. So this is just to say that the certificate of employment is not equivalent, or is not the same, or is not the same as a testimonial or a certificate of good standing. So despite having given that certificate, one or an employer can still give a testimonial if they so wish. So this section in summary, basically just deals with the two types of things that an employee is entitled to at termination. Firstly, is the payments, the different types of payments that they are entitled to, and secondly, a certificate of employment and what that certificate of employment must contain or constitute. Ladies and gentlemen, that's the end of our section 37. Let us discuss, let us engage, let us unpack this section in the comments or on any of our social media platforms. Thank you.